This happened a couple years ago, but it still follows me everywhere. At the time I was in my early 20s, still in school, still surrounded by the same group of friends I'd had for years. The kind of friends you think will always be around. The kind you trust with everything. I never imagined that one single night would completely erase all of that. It started at a party. A normal party. Loud music, cheap drinks, people packed into a small apartment. Nothing unusual. Everyone was celebrating the end of exams and the start of a break. I remember walking in and immediately seeing a few familiar faces, including one of my best friends who had invited me. She was there with another girl I didn't know very well. I had seen her once or twice before, but we had never really spoken. She seemed friendly enough though, laughing with people and drinking like everyone else. As the night went on, people got more and more drunk. That girl in particular drank a lot. I noticed it because she started slurring her words and stumbling around the room. At one point she leaned against the wall just trying to keep her balance while people around her laughed. Later she even vomited. I ended up helping clean some of it off because she had leaned into me when it happened. It wasn't exactly a glamorous moment, but at the time I just felt bad for her. She looked completely out of it. After that, I left her with a couple of friends and went back to drinking myself. I wasn't exactly sober either. I had come to the party already in a bad mood because of some personal things going on in my life. Drinking felt like the easiest way to shut my brain off for a while. The party slowly started winding down after a few hours. People were calling rides, grabbing their jackets, saying goodbye, the usual end-of-night chaos. That's when I noticed that the girl was standing near the door, trying to order a taxi on her phone. She looked like she could barely stay upright. No one else seemed to be going with her, which honestly made me uncomfortable. Even in my drunk state, I knew sending someone home alone in that condition wasn't the safest idea. So I told my best friend that I would go with her and make sure she got home safely. My plan was simple. Ride with her to her place, then order my own taxi and go home. That way she wouldn't be alone during the ride and everything would be fine. My best friend agreed and thanked me for looking out for her. We got into the car together. During the ride, I was mostly focused on my phone trying to book another ride for myself. Unfortunately, the area she lived in was kind of far out, and none of the taxi apps were finding drivers. I kept refreshing the screen, hoping something would pop up. Nothing did. By the time we reached her house, I still hadn't managed to get a ride. I stood outside for a minute trying again and again, but the apps just kept saying no drivers were available. At that point, it was late, the streets were empty, and I was carrying a backpack with my belongings. Walking around alone didn't feel like a great option either. Eventually, I asked her if I could just crash there for the night. She said yes without hesitation. Apparently she had snuck out earlier, which meant the only room we could use without waking anyone up was hers. I remember feeling awkward about it, but also relieved that I wouldn't have to wander the streets looking for a ride. We went into her room and both laid down on the bed. I was careful to leave space between us. I was fully aware that she had been seeing someone, and I had no intention of getting involved in anything messy. I just wanted to sleep and deal with everything in the morning. For a while, nothing happened. I was staring at the ceiling trying to fall asleep when I felt her move closer. At first it was small things. Her head resting on my shoulder. Her hand lightly holding mine. I remember shifting slightly because it caught me off guard. Then she placed my hand on her thigh. I immediately pulled it away. I told her I didn't think we should do anything because I thought she had a boyfriend. She responded by saying it wasn't serious, that they were just seeing each other casually and she didn't see a future with him anyway. Then she moved even closer. She started kissing me. Before anything happened, I asked her if she was sure about what she was doing. I remember asking that very clearly. She kept saying yes over and over, telling me she was sobering up and that everything was consensual. Things escalated quickly after that. Even though part of me still felt uneasy about the situation, I was drunk too, and my judgment wasn't exactly perfect. At some point during everything, I remember stopping for a moment and moving her away from me. I told her again that maybe we shouldn't do this. She told me it was fine and kissed me again. Eventually, I just went along with it. At some point after that, we both passed out. The next morning, I woke up with a horrible feeling in my stomach. Not because anything terrible had happened during the night, but because the entire situation just felt wrong in hindsight. I felt guilty. I felt embarrassed. Mostly, I just wanted to forget about it. Later that day, I told my best friend what had happened. That turned out to be the worst mistake I could have made. Instead of hearing me out, she exploded. She said that girl had been too drunk and that I should never have gone along with anything. I tried explaining that the girl had been the one initiating everything, and that I had even tried stopping at one point. None of that mattered. Within hours, the story started spreading. Except it wasn't the story I had told. Somehow it turned into a completely different version of events. According to everyone else, I had taken advantage of a drunk girl and pressured her into going home with me. I was labeled a rapist almost overnight. Before I even had a chance to defend myself, people started blocking me. Friends I had known for years stopped responding to messages. Some of them posted things online about believing victims without even asking what actually happened. The girl herself didn't defend me either. Apparently when she woke up, she told people she didn't remember anything that happened that night. That was enough for everyone to decide what the truth must have been. My reputation was destroyed in less than a day. People I had spent years building friendships with suddenly treated me like I was some kind of monster. I couldn't walk around campus without feeling like everyone was staring at me. The worst part was how quickly it all happened. One day I had a normal life, friends, a social circle. The next day I was completely alone. I lost almost everyone I knew. And no matter how many times I tried explaining my side of the story, no one wanted to hear it. Because once a label like that sticks to you, people stop listening entirely. And at that moment I thought I would never hear from that girl again. After that night my life changed almost instantly. It didn't happen slowly or over weeks. It happened in what felt like a single day. Messages stopped coming. Group chats I used to be part of suddenly went silent for me. Then I realized I had been removed from them. Friends I had known for years either blocked me or just completely ignored me when I tried reaching out. At first I thought it was just temporary. I thought maybe once people calmed down, they would at least listen to my side of the story. I believed that if I could just explain what actually happened that night, things would start to make sense again. That never happened. Instead, the rumors got worse. The story kept spreading through our social circles, and every time it traveled, it changed a little more. The version people were repeating barely resembled the truth anymore. According to them, I had intentionally followed a drunk girl home. According to them, I had planned the entire thing from the beginning. None of that was even remotely close to what actually happened. But once people decide who the villain is in a story, they stop caring about details. I tried messaging a few of the people I trusted the most. I wrote long explanations. I tried to describe everything that happened exactly the way I remembered it. I told them how she had initiated things, and how I had even tried stopping at one point. Most of those messages were never answered. Some were read and ignored. Others got responses that were even worse. A few people told me they didn't want to hear excuses. One person told me I should be ashamed of myself and disappear. I remember staring at that message for a long time. Because these were people who had known me for years. People who had seen who I was every single day. And yet they were ready to believe the worst version of me without hesitation. The girl herself stayed quiet. She didn't publicly accuse me of anything, but she also didn't correct the rumors either. When people asked her about that night, she simply said she didn't remember what happened. That one sentence was enough to seal my fate. If she didn't remember, then in everyone's mind that meant I must have taken advantage of her. It didn't matter that I had been drunk too. It didn't matter that she had been the one initiating things. All people saw was the narrative they wanted. I started isolating myself. At first it was just avoiding parties and social gatherings, then it became avoiding campus entirely whenever I could. Every time I walked past someone who recognized me, I felt like they were judging me. Maybe some of them weren't, but once your reputation is destroyed, it's impossible not to assume the worst. Eventually I stopped trying to fix things. I stopped sending messages. I stopped trying to explain. It felt pointless after a while. No matter what I said, the story people believed had already been decided. The loneliness that followed was something I wasn't prepared for. Losing friends is one thing. Losing almost everyone at once is something else entirely. The silence becomes overwhelming. Days would pass where I barely spoke to anyone. I spent most of my time alone in my room, thinking about everything that had happened and replaying that night over and over in my head. Every time I did, I found another moment where I wished I had acted differently. Maybe I should have refused to stay at her house. Maybe I should have insisted on leaving no matter how late it was. Maybe I should have pushed her away completely. Those thoughts became constant. They were the kind of thoughts that slowly eat away at you, because the more I thought about it, the more I realized how unfair everything felt. I wasn't perfect that night, but the version of events people believed painted me as some kind of predator. That wasn't who I was. But it didn't matter what I believed about myself anymore. The damage had already been done. Months passed like that. Eventually people stopped talking about the situation as much, but that didn't mean things went back to normal. Once your reputation is ruined in a social circle, it never really recovers. People just quietly keep their distance. During that time I tried rebuilding my life in small ways. I focused on work, stayed away from old social circles, and avoided anything that might drag me back into that same environment. I didn't use social media much anymore either. One day I decided to reactivate my Instagram account just to check a few messages from family. I hadn't logged into it in months. That's when I saw the notifications. 4 messages from her. They had been sent earlier that same day. The first one simply said, if this account still works, but hey. The second message came a minute later. Then another. And finally one more. I stared at the screen for a long time. At first I didn't even know how to react. Part of me felt relief. For 2 years I had been carrying the weight of what people believed about me. And suddenly there was at least some acknowledgement that things weren't as simple as everyone thought. Another part of me felt angry. Because those 4 short messages couldn't undo what had already happened. They couldn't bring back the friendships I had lost or erase the years of isolation that followed. And yet there it was, an apology. After sitting with it for a while, I finally replied. I asked her one simple question. What exactly are you apologizing for? I wanted clarity. I wanted her to say it directly. I wanted her to admit that the story everyone believed wasn't the truth. After sending that message, I waited. Hours passed. Then a full day. My message stayed undelivered. She hadn't opened it. That's when another realization started settling in. Even if she eventually answered and admitted everything publicly, it wouldn't really change what had already happened. The people who abandoned me had already made their decisions. The friendships I lost had already faded into the past. And the version of me they believed in their heads had already become permanent. An apology might prove I wasn't the monster they thought I was. But it wouldn't give me my life back. That was the hardest part to accept. Because for 2 years, I had imagined what it would feel like if the truth finally came out. I thought it would bring closure. Instead, it mostly brought sadness. Sadness for the friendships that disappeared. Sadness for the reputation that would probably never fully recover. And sadness for the version of my life that existed before that night. A version that was gone forever. So now I'm left with a question I still don't fully know how to answer. If she finally admits the truth, should I share it with everyone who turned their backs on me? Or should I just let the past stay buried and move on with my life? Because even though an apology might clear my name, it won't erase everything that happened after.